Hey, everybody. Here's a quick word about our sponsors. First one being LASRApp. You can find them at www.lasrapp.com. They're a laser activated shot reporter. They're amazing what it can do, all of the things that you can do with it, multiple guns, multiple locations, any type of target. They have a smorgasbord of items on their website store. Check them out. Use the affiliate link below or on our website, casualshooterpodcast.com, and use the code CSP 2021 for up to 15% off items not covered by the affiliate link. Next up, we have Gun Butter. I am one of those people that I clean my gun all the time because I feel like you've always got to clean the crud and put a fresh coat of lubrication on it. That's because of the stuff we had to use in the military. I didn't like it, but I have finally landed on something I can get behind, and that is gun butter. I did not shoot. I'm. I did not clean my gun at all at nationals. I did not clean it after the match before nationals, nor the match before that. And there's still gun butter oil on my gun, and I'm going to be using their grease on the lugs of my bolt gun. Next, we have HOIST. It is IV level hydration. It's clinically proven to absorb 110% faster than water. You've got all the right ingredients of your electrolytes that you need: magnesium, calcium, sodium, potassium. It's all in there. A little bit of sugar, but that mixes the right amount to make it absorb rapidly so it's not sitting in your belly and weighing you down. So check it out. Get hydrated, stay hydrated. And thanks for checking out our sponsors. It helps with the podcast. Welcome to this week's edition of the Casual Shooters Podcast, your premier podcast for the casual shooter. This week's guest is local to me here in Central Virginia. He just shot Carry Optics Nationals as well. And he was on the squad with Jay Beal, Rachel Harper, the Dupuis brothers, Luke Cow, and even Jeff Emmerich. Needless to say, that's a pretty rocking squad right there. But I actually met our guest when he was just starting into practical shooting, as was I. I met him at a local match. So let's cut through all the suspense and let's bring in Joel Fisher. How you doing, Joel?
I'm doing well, Dave. It's good to see you, man.
Excellent. Good seeing you. All right. So if you want, take a second, introduce yourself.
Yeah. Well, I'm Joel Fisher, like you said, and I am living in Central Virginia. Lived here most of my life, and I like shooting. I have a family, 4 kids, wonderful wife, and so try to figure out a good balance between doing things I enjoy and my responsibilities. It's good.
Yeah,
Life is good.
That's got to be a tough balance at times.
Yeah, it is. I know my priority is my family, and but shooting is something that I really enjoy. I enjoy it, so I do it when I can.
But on weekends, shooting moves above family. Monday through Friday.
Certain weekends, like if I travel to
Right.
Alabama or something.
Right. There are exceptions to the rule. All right. So, Joel, I'm going to ask you the normal warm-up questions we have, or icebreaker questions.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
The fifth one is unique to you, though, so you couldn't have studied for this one.
Okay, sounds good.
It's going to be a shocker.
I can't wait.
All right, your favorite movie?
I think it might have to be the trilogy, the Bourne original, the 3 original Bourne movies.
Yeah,
I enjoyed them a lot when they came out. So I'll probably have to say those.
Now, okay, I love those movies. What did you think of the 4th one that came out with the other guy?
Honestly, I remember it a little bit. With I don't remember his name. Maybe Jeremy Renner or something. But I don't remember liking it as much. I think there was a 5th one too, wasn't there?
Yeah, but that 4th one blew chunks.
It did. They kind of like just messed up. It kind of got too complicated and it just kind of took away from the original. Like it just I don't know, watered everything down and made things confusing, and I don't know, just didn't enjoy it. So.
But I felt like the 5th one with the original actor got right back on track, and that was a
Yeah,
good one.
that's true. Yeah.
I was excited when I saw he was back and they were doing another one. I was like, oh yeah, I can get into this.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
he's young too, so they could still. I mean, they could do another 6 of them. He's
Yeah,
young enough.
it's one of those things where sometimes, like, if it's done right, like a show or a movie, if it's done right, it can be good. Otherwise, it just drags out, and like they're
Yeah.
kind of grasping at straws. I always joke with my wife. I'm just like, after season 2 or 3 of a TV show, I'm like, yeah, now they're just finding ways to get more episodes. Like they lost track of the original plot a long time ago.
Well, and speaking of TV shows, we'll get into that real quick. Like two of my favorite TV series of all times was MASH and Friends.
Yeah.
And they didn't have that problem. They lasted a long time.
Right.
Like Friends,
Right.
Friends was just a progression of their
Right.
friendship through the years. So that was easy.
Right.
I say that was easy. MASH was day to day in the Korean combat life of surgeons. So that worked out well too. Those were very good. But yeah, I know what you mean. I think I watched the first season of Survivor and then I was done.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm out. So
Yeah.
I love MMA, but I don't even watch the Ultimate Fighter anymore. I don't like the drama. I'm bored with that. If they would just cut it down to an hour to show the training and the fighting, I'm in. But I don't need all that drama crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
people like it, I guess. Some people do.
Yeah. And I heard with Top Shot, I heard the producers were disappointed initially that there wasn't any drama in the house. Shocking. Shooters not having drama.
I've heard that too. Yeah. And they kind of had to almost create some drama. So.
Right. And it didn't really work then either.
Yeah.
So it was good. Your favorite?
Yeah, Top Shot, man. Those first couple episodes or seasons, I enjoyed. That was like my favorite show.
Yeah, it was. My son and I watched every single episode. We loved it.
Yeah, and I didn't even know who the guys were. Till years later when I got kind of into USPSA, I was like, wait, I watched JJ Verkaza and like Blake Miguez and Mike Seeklander, and there was, I think, a couple others, and I was like, I can't believe like these people. I had no idea who I was watching. I was just enjoying the show. So
yeah, they talked about JJ Verkaza. He has a pistol named after him, the Lim Cat, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but okay, looks cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I see him watching shooting long range with rifles and stuff. I'm like, oh, I can beat him. I can do that.
Yes.
Oh, all right. Moving on to the next one. Favorite book?
I don't do much reading, but definitely the Bible.
I knew that was going to be your answer, and that's not the first time that's been said.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a bad answer at all. But I already knew when I asked. I'm like, I know what this answer is going to be.
Oh, did you? That's funny.
I did. Yep, sure did.
Definitely.
I don't know if you're into this genre. So if you're not, this is an either or. Favorite superhero or favorite historical figure?
That's a good question.
I already had your answer.
I watched some superhero movies like with my kids, but I don't know if I have a favorite one. So I'm gonna go with George Washington. It's my favorite historical figure.
Okay, can't go wrong there.
Yeah,
and I wish every president would take the same path that he did. In that, his whole thing was you only serve 4 years, you do your time, and you go back to private life.
Yeah, so, I just think there's like, man, what some of the, like George Washington, but some of those early founding fathers, like they accomplished something, and they were very smart, obviously, and they were willing to risk a lot, but they're also very, very smart. They had good thoughts. They laid everything out, and they did something that hasn't ever really been done before, right? Like
John Adams read 4,000 books on government. So
yeah, I just don't think we don't hardly have that anymore. Like
With none.
a lot of knowledge, a lot of good leadership, a lot of understanding, and that they all work together in a way that they accomplished a lot of great
And
things. So
and the funny thing is they would argue like an old married couple debating stuff, but when it came down time to sign, they would sign it unilaterally and everybody be on the same sheet of music,
yeah, yeah, they would sit
which
in there
was
for hours and hours sometimes.
screaming at each other. Yeah.
Yeah,
But they got all of it out. They worked it all out. And it's the greatest government concept of all times. I say concept because
yes,
you have people today trying to ruin it.
yeah. I mean, it's humans, right? Everyone's
Yes,
everyone's screwed up to some degree, but the
this is
concept,
true.
the what they created was pretty amazing, and the fact that they were able to do it successfully, mostly successfully, is almost. I mean, it doesn't hardly seem possible considering all the factors against them. Like
I agree.
it was
And
pretty amazing.
they were able to do what I see most politicians today can't do, which is they put their own personal needs second. And they built a
Yeah,
country
very true.
for everybody without taking their own needs into account. Whereas, man, I look at 75, 80% of the politicians who are there for themselves. I think a
That's
lot of
a very
them
good point. Yeah,
go into it meaning well, but at some point in there, they go astray too. And it's just like, man, I don't even know what to do anymore. Term limits, I really
yeah,
think
that's a
is the
very good
only
point.
answer. Yeah. And like you said, they risked more than anybody in this country ever has in order to establish it. And they were still able to put themselves second. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
I was thinking you might have said Jesus.
That's true. Yeah, I was
I was
thinking
like,
more of recent.
yeah, that's way more recent. No, that's funny. That's like, like 1776 years more recent.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So the next one is favorite gun and caliber, but they don't have to be the same. It doesn't have to be a 1911
Yes.
M45 caliber.
Yes. So favorite gun, rifle would be like a lever action Winchester Model 94, and pistol would probably be like if we're along those old track. I've always liked revolvers, and so like a Python or a good Smith and Wesson, like a
Okay.
586 or a 686, and yeah, caliber would be 9mm for sure.
Okay. So I'm going to jump ahead then before we get to the very crazy next question. Can you see that?
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Is that what you're running now?
No, that is an M&P. That's what I ran before I switched to Shadow Systems January of this year.
All right. So you're on your third different setup.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
It was a Glock 17 was first, and then Smith and Wesson, and then now Shadow Systems.
So I'm jumping ahead again, but that's okay.
Right. Yeah.
We're in that mode. So how did you and Shadow Systems get hooked up together?
That's a great story. I'll keep it short mostly, but
Don't need to.
Phil Strader was the one that set us up. Long story short, I shot Virginia State with him. I was squatted with him last year, Virginia State, and first time I met him. But you got to know him pretty quickly by the end of the day shooting with him.
Yeah.
And yeah, he knew. Oh, I think someone that worked there. I think maybe the director of marketing at the time. And he heard that they were just have their eyes open for someone. He asked me. He's like, "Hey, like, would this be something you're interested in? Like at least trying out?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, yeah, for sure. I'll at least like maybe I'll test it out. Like if they want to send me something." And so, long story short, Phil Strader is actually the one. So if you're listening, Phil, I appreciate it. But yeah, Phil Strader was the original one.
Oh, that's probably about the time he was getting into SIG, though.
No, it was Virginia
Or
State of
2 years ago.
yeah, it would have been. Well, no, it would have been. Let's see. Last October, I want to say, or September. It was before nationals, right before nationals.
Right. Yeah, that was it's always been that first weekend of October, at least the times you and
Right.
I have shot it.
Yeah,
So
it was last year's, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was last year's. Yep.
okay, because that's when I approached Phil about being on the podcast, and then we had him on
Okay.
not long after nationals.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. He's fun to
He
have
is.
on. So I can only imagine shooting with him.
Oh, it was a blast. It was great.
Quick story that this is coming from me because I witnessed it happen. So Nils was on stage, would have been his stage 18, but it was actually stage 11. Okay. But so it was the second to last stage is what I'm getting at. He's got
Of
a
this
pretty
last
good,
year's nationals.
yep. The
Okay.
win he
Yeah.
just had a week and a half ago.
Yes.
So he comes back, he retreats, he shoots some targets, he turns left, he shoots, he goes to run and he stumbles and he almost falls down. Nils did. And he continues into that last position. And that's where it was the position where you shot to the left, you shot 3 steel, one was an activator, and then you had a tight swinger against the wall.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it was in between shooting the paper targets outside of that and then running up to that opening to engage the other stuff. He stumbled and
Oh
almost
yeah.
fell down. Like everybody's like,
Oh wow.
when Nils was done and he was walking back, Phil called him a quitter. He goes, Nils, you're a quitter. When you start something, you need to finish. If you stumble, you need to fall.
Sounds like him.
It was hysterical.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that was pretty good. So I was glad I witnessed that. I can tell that story. Now, with your Shadow Systems gun, what are you running bullet weight on that thing?
I'm running 147s currently.
Okay. There seems to be
Yeah,
a
I had been
migration.
running 124s, but I switched to 147s a few months back.
Do you load them or do you buy loaded ammo?
I buy it from John down in Outdoor Dynamics.
And those are what, his librarians? Is that what they're called?
Yes. Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Okay.
Yep.
And they're soft shooting, I take it.
Yeah, it didn't, like, I had been shooting 124s and I just wanted to try out 147s. And I bought, I don't know, maybe 2,000 rounds, I think. Maybe a couple thousand, I can't remember exactly, but I bought some ammo from him to try it out. And I didn't notice like a huge difference. But I noticed more of a difference previously last year with shooting my M&P. And I don't know if that was because it was a heavier, slower slide, but I preferred the 124s with my M&P. But I don't know if I have as much of a preference with my Shadow Systems. The slide's a little bit shorter and lighter, and I don't feel like I would have any trouble waiting. Like I felt like I had to almost wait on the gun with the 147s out of my M&P. I don't like it seemed too slow for me. Maybe I didn't have to wait on it, but that's how it felt.
Right. That was your perception. I get it.
Yeah, and so with the gun I have now, I tried it out, so I decided to stick with it because I zeroed everything, and so I'm sticking with 147s, but I shoot either of them. It doesn't matter that much, I don't think, to me.
Now, what's the barrel length on that
It's
Shadow System?
4 3/4. Yeah.
Okay, so it's IPSC legal.
Yep.
All right, I asked that now for a future question down the road here. So here's the personal question, just for you. Do you have any plans to stop torturing your wife and making her pregnant?
I think so.
So and I asked that, I am asking it to be funny, but at the same time, I've had this conversation because one of the guys who's normally on here with me, Leo, 2 years ago, we went to nationals and they had a newborn that was maybe 2 months old.
Oh, wow.
If that, and he hasn't shot a match since, and he has 2 kids. So I know that kids make it tough. Life, you know what I mean? Like family, can make it difficult. It is a challenge. So that's the whole reason I was asking, were there plans for more kids in the future, which means Joel might be capping where he's at for another 4, 5, 6, 7 years, or you know what
Well,
I mean?
put it this way. I have 4 kids already, from uh, 4 or 5 months to 9 years old. And we've figured out a schedule that works. I still have to be flexible and it could change, but we don't plan on having any more kids soon. That could change as well.
Okay.
But I like shooting enough. I plan on just like however my schedule is flexible and changing it around and making sure my family's taken care of. Like I enjoy shooting. I can do a lot of practice without having to sacrifice, time away from family, whether it's dry fire in the evenings after I put the kids to bed or something. So, um, you know, I may not shoot actually as many matches as I want to shoot, but I envision myself staying in the game for a while yet.
Okay,
So
that's awesome.
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
I obviously she's very supportive, so no broken
she
arms
is.
in the future.
Hopefully not.
Okay. You're gonna have to check out his Instagram if you want to know what we're talking about.
Yes, yes.
So I find it very intriguing that we have some odd relationships going on within the USP. And by that, I mean there seems to be some odd Central Virginia, Northeast US connections. Matthew Nash was
That's
in
true.
Mason Lane's wedding, and you and Jay Beal are friends.
Yes.
So enlighten me. What's going on here?
I wish I could tell you. I don't know. Maybe it's just like a natural connection. I don't know.
Interesting. Now, how did you and Jay become so friendly?
Well, I forget when I first started following him on Instagram, but it must have been around the time I think I saw a video. I think that JJ Rakaza posted in his stories about this guy doing like really good reloads. And I started following
Sounds like
him.
Jay.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it started on just messaging back and forth. And I was like, wow, he's really nice. Like he shares information. Like I don't know, we started talking more and more, I guess. And I think
Because
we shot North Carolina. I think that was in 2020. We shot that match together, I think. I get my years mixed up, but I think it was 2020. We shot the North Carolina section together. Or no, it was 2021. 2020,
Joel, you're too
he
young to be
was
having those
there.
memory problems.
So I know. 2020 we met down there. He was shooting a different squad, but we met, I think, for the first time.
You met
And
at
then
that was North
2021, I think
Carolina.
we shot. Yeah, and then 2021, I think we shot that match together in 2021. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he's a great guy though. Jay
Oh
Beal's
yeah, he
awesome.
is awesome. Yeah, he is awesome. So I get it. And look, you're a super nice guy too. So I totally get it. I can honestly say I haven't run into too many a-holes shooting, so that's nice.
I can say the same. Yeah, for
They're
sure.
rare and far between, so that's very nice.
It is.
Um, so moving along, when did you first shoot a gun?
Oh man, I was really little. It started with a BB
Okay.
gun and then a 22. I've always been around guns, but just far as for hunting and like plinking,
Hunting what?
deer, rabbits, squirrels, birds, turkey, pretty much anything.
So Central Virginia
Yeah.
country stuff.
Yep. That's right.
Okay. Yeah, my son's getting back into hunting. He went squirrel hunting. He's trying to warm up for deer season. So,
For sure.
yeah, that whole Central Virginia
Yeah,
thing.
many good memories squirrel hunting for sure.
Yeah. All right. So here is the national champion questionnaire. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. How tall are you?
6'1".
I was going to guess 6'3". You seem taller than 6'1". Are you sure? Have you measured
I
yourself
think
recently?
so.
Okay, I'm going to take
No,
your
it's
word for it.
I've stopped measuring stuff when I stopped caring. You know, when you're a teenager, that's all you care about.
Right.
Yeah.
I always waited for the day. I couldn't wait for the day that I didn't need someone to get something out of the cabinets above me. That was the day I
Yeah,
was waiting for. So that's how I measured my height. Once I could open up that door and get stuff out of the upper cabinets, I was solid.
that's
I'm
funny.
like, I don't care anymore.
Yep.
It's all good.
Yep.
All right. So you're 5'13", so you meet the minimum requirement there. Were you homeschooled?
I was.
Oh
Yes.
no. Here we go. 2 for 2. Did you grow up on a farm?
I did.
Oh my God. Potential national champion right here.
Boom.
Being interviewed on a
That's all it
podcast. There
takes,
we
right?
go. That's it. Man,
That's all it takes.
I can't tell you how many high-level shooters, the Williams sisters, Gianni Giordano, Brantley Miriam, and
Mm,
I forget all the others who have all been, they all meet those requirements. It's really
that's so
weird.
interesting.
Yeah, and we kind of ran across it by accident. We were just asking different people different questions. We're like, wait a minute, we're starting to see a
Huh.
trend here. So now I've turned it
That's
into the
interesting.
national champion questionnaire. Nils Jonasson, homeschooled.
Oh yeah.
See, that's proof right there. I could stop right there.
That's
It's already
proof.
proven. That's
That's proof.
scientific.
Exactly.
That beats Fauci science by a mile.
That's right. 100%.
Mm-hmm. All right. Awesome. I'm glad I'm interviewing a future national champ right here.
I'll take it.
So so you and I met, it was either towards the end of 2018 or the beginning of 2019. I forget,
Yes.
but it was right in that time frame. How did you
I
find
remember it too very well.
Do you really?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. Um, how did you find the USPSA?
Um so a friend, I got Instagram, right? And a friend of mine, he's a little bit older than me, but he's like he's a cop and now he's in security, but he was like, "Hey, listen, like these are the list of guys you need to follow, right? You're on Instagram now, like you got to follow all these people." And he was into like the tactical side of stuff. So I was following all these tactical pages, but he did tell me to follow this guy, Shane Coley, who I was like, I don't know who he is, but he's like, yeah, he's a good shooter. He shoots this like competition stuff, and I was like, okay, I didn't know anything about it. And so seeing Shane's videos was my first introduction of like, what in the world is he doing? That looks really fun. And that was the first time I saw anything about competition. So
Okay, quick question then. Did you
yeah,
have the same reaction that Isaac Lockwood did when he first saw those videos?
what's his reaction?
His reaction was, "There's no way they're aiming."
Oh, 100%. See, this was mine. I happened to follow Shane right after he posted a video of him shooting 3 steel targets in under a second. He drew
Holy
the
cow.
gun, went bang, 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 under a second. And I thought to myself, that's not humanly possible. And I remember telling a good friend of mine, I was like, how is this possible? Like, this shouldn't even be possible. And I was like, whatever he's doing, I want to find out what he's doing. Like, that's what I want. That looks fun. And
Okay.
that's how it started. Yep.
Isaac said he went to his first match and got smoked by like 60-year-old women. He's like, all right, I got to go back. I'm not as good as I thought I was.
Oh, competition shooting is the most humbling thing.
Oh my God. Tell me about it. I mean, look, Morgan's 15 and she makes me look like well, I won't use that word, but a piece of turd.
It makes you realize quickly, any preconceived notions that you thought you had in your head are thrown out the window. You go to your first match. You know, I thought I was good, and I thought I was something to behold, but I realized quickly I have a lot to learn.
I went in there. I'm like, I qualified expert like 5 or 6 times in the Marine Corps with a 1911. This is going to be easy. Uh,
You'll be good to go.
yeah, horrible.
Uh,
Wow. It is funny though. I mean, everybody gets humbled in the beginning. Oh
very
goodness.
much. Yeah.
All right. So the other thing I remember, and I want to say this was early 2019, you and I were having a conversation. I don't know if you remember the conversation, but I was like, dude, you got a lot of potential. You're fast and you're
Mm.
quick and you're this and you're that. You got a lot of potential. And I said, Steve Anderson has a class coming up here that I'm signed up for. And you're like, yeah, I'm taking one with Brandon Wright.
I remember that
So,
conversation very well.
oh, okay.
Yep.
Now, how much did that Brandon Wright class help you get to where you are today?
Oh, it totally, that's what, that was like the first thing that put me on the path with some direction, right? I started shooting, my first match was out there at GRB in Richmond in January of 2019. That was my first match. I showed up, shot it, and realized like this is a lot of fun, but I don't really know what I'm doing. And I wanted to shoot another match, but the next one was canceled. And then I went to something else. I think it was maybe March or something that we had a conversation, or maybe
Yeah,
April. I can't
that's not,
remember. It was,
yeah, somewhere
yeah,
right in there. Yeah.
yep. And I don't know if I'd heard of Steve Anderson, but I remember after that conversation, hearing you talk about Steve Anderson, you told me about his podcast, and
Mm-hmm.
I went on. I didn't even have a podcast platform at that point, but that was the first podcast I started listening to was Steve Anderson, and so I started listening to his podcast and then taking that Brandon Wright class. I think that was June of 2019. Completely changed things for me. Like I didn't really have any idea what I was doing. I was trying to like look online with videos and stuff, but um, I didn't have any foundation, right? And like I just had, you know, shooting milk jugs in the backyard or shooting a piece of paper or whatever. I didn't know how to practice. I didn't know really, much of anything about aside from just, shooting something slowly and like trying to be accurate. I just didn't have any idea, what else was more involved. And that class with Brandon Wright gave me direction. It gave me a vision. It gave me a lot of tools, know-how. It was a really good class. Yeah,
So it gave you a good basis.
really did. Yes.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. Now, have you taken any more classes since then?
I took one earlier this year in March. Rob Epifania. He was doing a
Ooh.
class down in North Carolina, and that was a really good class as well. So that
Oh,
was
yeah, I can
earlier this year, I
imagine.
think. Yeah.
Did he have a reload competition?
He did a lot of stuff on reloads. I don't think there was a competition, but he's really good at reloads, obviously. And
Yeah. I'm not
yeah,
racing him. I'm like, let me call my buddy Jay and I'll
yes,
watch you and him race because I'm not
yeah,
getting in this one.
yes, yeah. No, that was really informative. Well, I think it's good to take a class every now and then. I think I need it every now and then because um, you don't realize what plateaus you may be hitting or you feel stuck. And so a class can kind of renew your way of thinking or training and kind of give you a spark or give you new direction and just, yeah, inspiration, whatever it is. A lot of mental stuff going on there too. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
if I had the time and the money, I would hit up Tim Herron. I would hit up Rob. I would hit Mason. I would hit up
Mhm.
Mike
There's so many.
Steeklander. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I would skip every match in a year if I
Mm,
could go shoot with them, shoot with JJ, and just do nothing but classes for a year. Oh my gosh!
mm,
Even if it only bumped me up a classification or so,
yeah.
I don't care. Just the experience of being in those classes with those guys would be amazing.
It's helpful. Yes. And I think when it's hard to go wrong, right? But I think there's definitely ways you can progress more from classes based on how you how you practice after the class. But but just being there for, say, a whole day of shooting, right? You're shooting for a whole day. You're around other people with a common goal, and you have an instructor watching you. Even if you just take that day aside, like, you're gonna improve. But
Yes.
the improvement really does happen later on, and how you decide to go with it after that is where the
I
improvement's made.
I can't argue one iota with that. I totally agree. And I also feel, because I teach paramedics now, I've taught long range, I've taught Marine snipers,
Okay.
I've taught a lot of different things. I taught marksmanship basically from 1986 to 1997.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so I spent a lot of time teaching. And look, you could have the most knowledgeable guy, but that doesn't mean he can explain it in such a way that you can understand. And then
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
there's
definitely.
also, look, I'll never be a JJ Rakaza, but somebody quick and nimble who could relate to him might pick up a lot more in his class. I would
Mm,
still want to go because I'm going to learn something.
definitely.
But there's might be another instructor out there who fits my mode of shooting better, who I can relate to. So
Mm,
I'll pick up one or two things here. I might pick up three or four things there, another one or two things here, but it makes you such a more rounded shooter. And then,
for
like you
sure.
said, you can take that stuff back and then put it into dry fire, put it into live fire practice. There's just so many things like Steve Anderson. And this is what maybe I was phrasing it wrong initially when I was asking people about, have you ever thought about a stage breakdown class and how to figure things out? And they're like, well, it doesn't really matter.
Mm,
But Steve Anderson said something a couple months back on his podcast that I was like, that's what I'm talking about. And it was that it was in one of the classes where they shot a match afterward. And the guy was like, I learned how to compete. And that is the class that I think more than anything I would like to have. Like, I don't have
mm,
as long as I'm doing my thing, I can hit the targets. I don't have a problem hitting swingers. I'm not the
yeah.
fastest guy out there, but I can hit everything.
Yeah.
And but my problem is, like, I was talking even to Brantley Miriam because, dude, I don't know if you looked at stage 19, but he blew everybody away at stage
Oh, he
19.
did. He crushed it,
Holy
man.
cow. Yeah. So I interviewed him yesterday and I had his video and we spent like 5 minutes on that stage.
Wow.
And like, I asked him, like, how do you determine what you're doing on these stages? But I think it comes down to, and what I'm getting at is my stage plans seem to be what everybody else is doing 98% of the time. And when I mean
Right.
everybody else, I mean shooters at higher levels than me. So
Right.
I'm not coming up with dumb stage plans and they're
Right.
good and I make sure they fit my strengths. But there are times where, again, nationals, I overheard Nils talking and he said, with so many Charlies, you just scored a Mike.
Mm,
And I'm like, oh, so now I know what's going through his mind. And now I know
huh.
why Nils isn't the fastest guy out there, but he's one of the more accurate guys and he's
He really
efficient.
is. Yes.
And so that made me start thinking of a totally different way too. But that's the kind of class I would love to have, is like
Mm.
that type of a mindset. How do I go into the stage? Okay, here's my stage
That's a
plan.
very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, but what does that even mean? So what? This is my stage plan. What am I
Right.
missing to make it more efficient, to make it so
Mm,
that my hit factor will go up? And there's just little things, but what are the little things that I'm missing?
mm.
So
Yeah, very good points.
I think if somebody comes up with that class, they're $1 million.
That
So
would be a very good class for sure. I would
that
want to
would
take that
be
class.
that would be awesome. And I think that would be like that next big class, especially
Mm,
all these guys like your Stegers who are recently world and national champs, your
yeah.
JJs, your Nils. That's a class that they could give, that they don't even have to be instructors on. They can
Mm.
just walk through. You could do a whole day of, okay, have you seen Chris Gelnitz's videos?
Yeah, I have.
So he's got that 10-foot
He
tripod with
does,
his
yes.
GoPro, and all you would have, I would pay several $100s to sit with Nils in a classroom with one of those at nationals and go through each stage, and
Mm.
no volume, just him stopping and starting and just narrating what he's doing, what's going through his mind, what is he thinking, what's he thinking during his walkthrough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all of that. Give me
Yes,
that, man. Give me that.
yes. Yes, that
That's what
would
I
be
want.
amazing.
Yes. I
Same.
feel like that would make me a GM tomorrow.
No doubt.
Okay, maybe not, but I still have to call my shots and, whatever.
Yeah. It's
Get the
amazing how much
steal.
goes into mental, like the mental
Yes.
side of it, and just and not just like mentally as far as remembering positions and shooting subconsciously and doing what your plan is, but trusting, at least for me, like if I'm trusting myself and my speed, right? It feels slow. And so currently, like, this is just where I'm at. I battle with that sometimes of how, and I know how it feels is not always how it is in reality, right? And
Right.
you know
Right.
that.
Yes.
Um, but that's a whole nother mental side of just of trusting yourself. Like when it comes time to shoot a match, you're not gonna get better in 15 seconds before the stage, right? How you are in your current level, the best way to shoot to your max ability is to execute, call your shots, all the things, and it's that mental thing of just trusting yourself, and however much time it takes to hit where you want to aim is exactly how much time you need to take to hit where you want to aim. And if it feels slow, you cannot always trust that feeling. If it feels slow and you feel like, oh, I need to speed up, like this is taking a long time, right?
Right.
I can't trust that feeling for myself. Like I have to realize,
How do you
shoot the
suppress
speed
that?
that I know to shoot, trust it, and let things happen. Just let it happen, because
But how do you
it's easy for
suppress
me to
that?
force it to happen. It's easy for me to force it, and that's never as good. It's never as good of a result.
I've also found it's not even good for me to see someone else's run and go, "Ooh, that's a better idea." That's
Right.
That's a dumpster fire waiting to happen right there. Because I've done that before. I'm like, oh, I'm going to change to that, and then completely, get like a one hit factor. So
Yeah.
I learned my lesson the hard way.
Yeah. Don't
I
we
was
all,
talking
right?
to, yeah, June Kim said the same thing. Yeah, we've all done that.
Yeah.
So where are you at in your training, competing? Are you where you want to be? Would you prefer more, a little less?
Where do I want, like, rephrase the question again, or
Okay,
ask
I
it?
will. Yeah, I'll re-ask it because it is an odd. All right. So how do you feel you are in your current level of training? Not necessarily classification or anything, but
Okay.
just training for matches. Do you feel you're at the right spot? Do you feel like you need more live fire, maybe more dry fire? Is everything you like your mix as it's going?
So it's a good question. I think after this year, and maybe it's starting to happen in the last few months, but I I don't know. Like I would love to shoot more live fire, and I think most people would, right? My budget doesn't allow for much live fire, but I think my aspect on training, how I approach shooting live fire, and what I'm learning, um, that is starting to increase. So I've always tried to I've always tried to approach live fire as like, what's the most I can learn from the least amount of rounds, right? But there's a whole nother aspect of like paying attention and trying to figure out what the true, like what's at the very basis of the problem here. Like this is what's happening on the target, or this is what's happening on the timer, but what's the root cause of this, or what's at the very root of this, and like breaking things down. And so I'm not at the current level of training that I want to be, because I know that there's more to learn as far as efficient training. And I like seeing videos of high-level guys explaining things because I like to take away things. Ben Steger's videos recently, and a lot of people's videos of dry fire, like Jay Beals, like seeing someone dry fire something specific. It helps me to isolate problems that I have and to change things to try to get better at an individual task, right? Instead of combining everything into one sequence. And does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And
And
that
so
you go ahead.
I think I'm not at the level that I want to be in training,
Okay.
because I'm always trying to get better. Not necessarily. I want to train more, right? I want to shoot 2,000, 1,000 rounds a week. You know, some weeks I think I would want to do that, right? But that's not the reality. And so trying to figure out the max that I can do with the rounds that I have, and work it out in dry fire. And so yeah, I'm not where I want to be in my percentage or in my training. Like my percentage as far as like a nationals finish, I guess I should say. Like that's I always want to increase that a little by little. Just my ability overall. Like I want to get better. My goal is to constantly get a little bit better. And so yeah, I'm never quite satisfied. And I'm always trying to improve. But it takes a lot of thinking, I think, for me anyway, as far as what's the best way to do that.
Well, and I think once you get to A class, it kind of shifts. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
think you can like I've shot A class classifiers, and just from doing the basics in dry fire, getting faster and finding the dot quickly and concentrating and calling my shots, you know, the basic.
yeah,
But I feel like to get beyond that, I am going to have to be able to do more and understand more to
yes.
be able to make it to that next step. And then,
There's
you know,
yes, there's a whole other levels like beyond that,
yeah.
like that I see. And like, so for instance, real quick, like if I'm setting up like a short little course in live fire, and I have like a little bit of movement here, 3 or 4 targets, and my goal is, or okay, say I shoot underrun and I'm here, there, and there, and there's 4 targets, and I look at the hits, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, like, what can I do to improve this? But at the basis is like, well, why are my shots doing this? Um, Here it's because I wasn't looking at the spot I wasn't looking at. So how can I improve my eyesight to look at a spot faster and look at the right spot? And then also my grip and also my stance. Like I'm I'm trying to work on that more, being stable, being aggressive in my movement, and then stable when I need to shoot, and shooting on the move where I can. But there's a whole nother level beyond that of just like trying to figure out the little aspects that go into shooting well and shooting fast. Like there's a lot there. And I think the more I can pay attention, then the better it'll be. But
So, two follow-up questions with that.
yeah,
One, do you video yourself in training so you can go back and dissect it?
uh, occasionally, yeah. I would say I really hate working with a camera while I'm training, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just I do sometimes, and I like when I do. Um, I think sometimes at this point I kind of know, at least to a degree, where my deficiency is. If something happens, like if I am not at the time I want to be, I can generally diagnose what that problem is. But it's very helpful to have video for me on just my movement, because I think I'm doing something aggressively, but
Mm.
in reality I'm not. My brain was thinking I was doing this, but when I look at the video, I could have been more aggressive there, right? Or why did I lower my gun coming into that position when I didn't need to have my gun lowered? And those are things that a video is helpful for, because you don't know that that's happening unless you watching yourself.
And I'm looking for a video because I have a perfect example of that at nationals, but I sure as heck don't remember because I'm looking at my aim cam videos.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and I'm trying, and so half the time, the beginning of the video is staring at the ground because
Right.
I'm thinking and not looking. You know what I mean? Like I
For
might be
sure.
doing running through
Yeah.
something or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's definitely a lot to be learned with watching videos, and I like to get videos of myself shooting stages, and
mm-hmm.
I usually hope that it's, that's not too much of a bother to other people. I try to be conscious of when they're shooting, but um, most of the time it's not really. My thought isn't like, oh, I hope this looks good for Instagram later if I ever would post it. But I like to watch myself shooting stages,
Yeah,
based on my perception of how I shot it, and then looking at the video. There's definitely a lot to be learned.
but there was. Do you remember the pressure pad? I mean, I know you
Yes.
do. Yep, that's when I shot the hole. Here we go. When I shot the hole in the wall. Stage one, the strong hand, weak hand.
Yes.
Yeah, I was I was tracking so I blame this on Juan Kim. It's all his fault. I'm you know how it was like that you could see completely through the wall. Like when you're
Definitely.
going to that one target that was hidden behind the wall at a 45-degree angle.
Yeah, like
They
at
had
the
that.
end on the right side there.
Yeah. Well, but I was moving from left to right. So the one coming towards, so it would have
Right.
been the fourth target. So I'm
Yes.
tracking it through that wire,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I thought I had cleared the fence, but apparently, or the end of the wall, but I put a round directly through that aluminum.
Oh, man.
Now, this is my perception of how this went. I feel like, and I'll preface it now before I play it. So I drew and basically hit the pressure pad almost the same time I drew. And
Yeah.
then I went left to right.
Okay.
But my problem is I feel like after I hit the 3 in the clamshell that I was like, whew, all good. Bang, bang. That's how I feel I shot it. So here, I'll go ahead and it's queued up, ready to go. So
Okay.
that's me saying, yep, I'm ready. Drawing, stomping. See how slow the last one was? And
Mm,
and maybe it was just because I was shooting the with the no shoot there, but
yeah.
man, I really, when I got done and I looked at the video, I was like, I really felt like I left some time on the table.
Mm,
Um, and I kind of like almost breathed a sigh of relief because the biggest thing was making sure I got the 3 shots on that center target
for sure. Yes.
before I went to the right. So I totally get the whole
Yeah.
thing
It's
about.
it's one of those things where it is good. It can be helpful. Like, uh when you watch a video of how it went live time versus how it went in your mind, it's different a lot of times. And so that's, it's something to be learned there for sure.
Are you in your off season right now, or do you still have? I don't consider locals as part of. They're always ongoing. You can always shoot a local, and you can use that for practice.
Yeah.
But I consider once you're done with your major matches, then your major shooting season is over.
Yeah.
So are you in your off season now, or do you still have another major or two?
No, I'm definitely in my off season, and I'm purposely taking a short break. Well, short, probably. Like I haven't touched my gun since nationals, and I don't plan to for probably at least another month. Purposely, like I might I might I might grab the gun and play with it, right, a little bit, but I'm not. I'm taking a specific time off, and I'll probably shoot a local before the end of the year, and maybe early, next year. But in the winter, like probably after November, after the first or second week in November, my goal is to start diving back into training.
Carry Optics Nationals is early next year. Is that why you're starting your training early?
Yes, that's definitely a big reason for it, being that it's June.
Right.
And I don't know, I like training, and I get enjoyment from it. And I have to purposely take time off because I would probably keep dry firing, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so yeah, I like shooting locals too, but I'm purposely taking time off from that as well because
Okay.
I think it's good for me to take a short, just not shoot, you know.
I took a couple months off. Like I literally didn't even pick up my gun. I
Yeah.
dry fired with my carry gun, so it didn't really matter. But I didn't touch my competition gun at all
Mm,
from end of nationals to into after SHOT Show.
okay.
But you are a family guy. My kids are all grown; they're adults. Your kids are very young still. You have Thanksgiving coming up, you have
Yes.
Christmas, you have New Year's. So how does that play into all of your training if you're trying to
Well,
pick up mid-November?
yeah, it's training for me. It doesn't require me being gone hardly any. I can shoot live fire here at my place, and I can dry fire. Usually I dry fire in the evenings after we put the kids to bed.